Hey, Mel 602ers. So it's Dr. Palermo with an instructional video for the AAPSL C. And I hope that this will be helpful in helping you understand and complete the first writing assignment that you have for me. The AAPSL, the Analysis and Action Plan for Student Learning, is evidence number one. I try to call them by name. When you're loading these things, by the way, if you will call it, if you will put your first initial, last name, J. Palermo, AAPSL C, and the date, that is a great way for me to keep them all straight. I oftentimes download these things and save them before I look at them, and sometimes send edited and versions back to you with notes. But often that's my naming system that's worked for me. Anyway, APSL, analysis and action plan for student learning. You should have started writing in 601. That was to get a PLC together. Maybe you already have a PLC. I hope you didn't recreate one if you already have. If you have a third grade PLC or a health and PE PLC or middle school science PLC, whatever it may be, you're usually identifying some area where students aren't being successful. That's the four question, what happens when kids aren't being successful? Oftentimes, then you have an intervention in place. Well, the school improvement plan or your particular school may already say what is the intervention for that problem. In which case, I don't suggest that you put a new plan into place, but try to adapt and understand, analyze the plan that's in place in order to kind of backward map and write your APSL. But if you've already begun on this thing, that's fine. In APSL A, you defined your PLC. In APSL B, you facilitated the PLC to investigate the most pressing needs. Again, I would think that your needs in your school and your PLC may have already been identified by the school improvement team or by your grade level or by your PLC. If that's the case, then what was the need that they identified? Was it third grade reading? Is it eighth grade writing? Is it in improving the culture and the discipline at your school? Any of these would be great topics for investigation. But in A, you were to facilitate the PLC. In B, A, form the PLC. And B, facilitate. In C, you're identifying areas for improvement investigation. So if you look at this content rubric, of course, this is from your Mel's handbook. Nothing here should be new to you. You are to, again, lead a PLC to research best instructional practices. So here during the research course, again, let's spend some time researching and looking into if something has already been identified as a best practice and as the strategy to meet the need for your PLC, investigate that. If not, if it is simply reading or writing or how to write a 4-paragraph essay, then what are the best instructional practices for that particular need? I'll bet you that there are best practices and somebody has already investigated these things, but if you do a little bit of research, and the Dover Library can be a great place to do that, or even a Google search should turn up. If you type in best practices for reading instruction, you're going to come up with a lot of different ideas. At any rate, to move to the accomplished level, the candidate has knowledge of the best practice, utilize data to specify the needs, should have already done that stuff in A and B, work with the PLC to connect the research-based strategies. Here's where you're going to do the research and then connect the strategies to those learning needs. And again, maybe that's already been done, but you certainly can cite research, Marzano, others, in order to justify the strategy that's being used in the school. I want you to see that working with the PLC through this process is an important part of being proficient or exemplary according to the rubric. And then if you go over and look at the component descriptor matrix, works with others, works with others, works with others to systematically focus on the alignment of learning, assessment, and lessons. A lot of this stuff is demonstrating that you're working with others. So I would like to see evidence of your work with others. if you have a video, if you have PLC agendas and minutes, if you have a photo of your group sitting together looking at data. Those are all wonderful electronic evidences to add to your component. Okay, so in the resources here, then on the left-hand side, artifact resources, in the file for the AAPSL, I have the content rubric. Uh, let me back up a minute, sorry. You have the content rubric. So for artifact resources, with the AAPSL C, you should find 3 files. The content rubric, a sample AAPSL. I don't think that this is the best one in the world, but it shows you how this particular individual utilized the research best practices that had been suggested at the school, cited research to say why Cornell notes or outlining strategies were going to be helpful to teaching the writing process, and then this short video. Okay, I'm going to go a whole lot more in depth into the outline for the AAPTEL. You should have already written an AAPSL and at least A and B and perhaps C. You're going to write a draft of AAPSL C, look at the exemplar, the sample, look at the content rubric, draft something please, get something into Blackboard by week 2 so that others can look at it, and that's your big writing assignment for week 1. Thank you. Write to me if you have questions.